Hey dear user, thanks for visiting salesandmarketingforyou.com or whatever you clicked on to arrive at this esteemed event, which is essentially me sitting here talking to you about something and hoping that you don't mind the fact that this is not your conventional, what is this thing? Like, I'm not wearing a suit and stuff. Hey, I put on my shirt for you and a tie, alright? So, hopefully that will be a nod to professionalism. And by the way, I'm a big believer in showing up in a $3,000 suit. There's mine right there. One of them, right? I don't know if you can see that. That's like custom made from like Colombia. The suit over there, like tailor made. Like I had a tailor from essentially from Medellin, I believe, and kind of guy that basically suits up Pablo Escobar types. So based on I paid a few $100 or whatever in Colombia, but translated, like the quality of the suit, I know for sure it's at least $1,000 suit. I like to say $1,000 suit, $3,000 suit, or whatever number, just to impress on you that presentation when you're talking to your customers. Now you'll be like, well, what about you? You're talking to us guys, and then you're just sitting there in this big mess. Guys, I'm a smart creative. Okay, Google came up with the term smart creative. It's a person who is essentially outwardly he seems like he's insane. It's something Einstein said. I've started using it in a tagline. There's a gentleman by the name of Tai Lopez, Tailopez, and he's one of these successful kind of do-it-yourself entrepreneurs, going from literally living in a trailer to kind of guy who can buy a Lamborghini every month if he wants, and he has a Lamborghini. I know this for sure. It's on one of his videos. By the way, Tai Lopez. You really should get into looking up people like this, like John Chow blogging, Jeremy Schumacher blogging, Matt Lloyd, network business. Okay, my own Matt Lloyd is essentially he's about 28, 29 years old, multi-millionaire many times over. Hey, listen, everyone started out normal. You've got this guy ProBlogger.net, Darren Rouse. Okay, he makes like at least 200 grand on a bad year blogging. He started out at Walmart. Okay, so everyone knows about Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Sergey Brin. These guys were all just normal people with a dream, and they persevered. Check this out. So this is something I want to talk about on a bit of a side note. So the only thing that I have that you don't have, folks, is information and experience. That's it. The experience part, you're going to have to basically pick up the phone and make calls. And yes, I do want to talk about cold calling. And if you didn't know, my website is salesandmarketingforyou.com, separated by hyphens. I've got articles on there that essentially are Google top 10 articles. If you stick like sales lead sheet into Google, that's number one for sure. Certified marketing consultant used to be number one. It might be number two. I mean, the problem is there's so many promoted and organic tweets right now. And by the way, I'll go back to Google. I used to love and hero worship Google like everyone else, but Google unfortunately is coming apart at the seams because this is the age of the individual. Okay, the information age is basically the age of the individual. The individual is empowered with information. The internet essentially is the internet is in a way like God. Like you can't see it, you can't touch it, but it's there and it's so powerful. You can just sit here like I do, tweeting and blogging all day and talking to customers on Skype. I don't even have to ever leave my crummy apartment. Anyway, in Google they have this thing called Smart Creative. People work best under social controls, which means surrounded by other people, and they're all like super genius level folks. And Einstein said the problem with smart people is they seem like they're crazy to dumb people. So am I smart and you dumb? All I'm saying is this: if you think I'm crazy, just bear that in mind. So books, guys, books. Read books. Like everyone's gonna bad Donald Trump. By the way, he's won the but for the fact that Ted Cruz and these other people, Rubio, are need to, they're gonna be eating. They're eating his tail dust. Okay, and they're gonna be dismissed summarily. And how are you not gonna like a guy who speaks his mind, is fearless, and is the owner of a multi-billion-dollar enterprise? He's obviously done something right. It's very easy to sit back and judge him, but have you ever even sold a single item? Like the average guy, I'm not talking to you guys. You guys, I'm hoping, are sales and marketing professionals, but the average guy hasn't ever gone out and put himself on the line like a business owner. That's how you succeed, guys. You might want to call it disruptive marketing, interruptive marketing, blah blah blah, rejection based marketing. Come up with any term you like. But you got to get yourself or your message or your brand in front of people, and they should step around you essentially. I'll see people handing out flyers on the street. I'll grab a flyer and I'll be like, let me show you how it's done. I do it every time practically. Unless there's a really good guy and I'll prop him. And there are many really great people out there doing this job, and it's a hard job, but it's a great job. Because I tell people, this is what one of my sales mentors told me. I'm just passing the information on. Once you get that tap on, and you understand how to talk and interact with people, and you really don't care about rejection, rejection's part of the game. I mean, here's the thing, guys. Don't believe these people who say, "Well, I'm not scared of picking up the phone." No, you are. That fear of, it's not fear of rejection. It's essentially something Imam Ali, peace be upon him, said. He said that people fear what they do not know. And the greatest unknown in the universe, as far as I'm concerned, is human nature. I mentioned it on my last cold calling video, and I'll say it again, and I think you guys should listen to the song by Bjork. Iceland is a fantastic country, by the way, guys. Don't think it's all ice sheets. They got ice sheets, but God is great. They got hot springs everywhere, too. Literally, they got someone in a parka and hoodie and snow gear, and right next to him, some naked dude in a jacuzzi or something, like, natural jacuzzi, right? Stripped down to shorts, literally. It's pretty amazing stuff, guys. I mean, like, people say it's a random universe, but I mean, it's very peculiarly, or it's a very peculiar kind of randomness, if that's the case. Anyway, I've read The Art of the Deal by Trump. I've read We Want You to Be Rich by Trump and Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm not trying to impress you. I'm trying to impress upon you. It's another line I just picked up from another online workshop I did. Guy called Fred Lamb. It's something I'm really getting into. It's called CPV and CPC. Cost per click, cost per visit. Guys, I'll say something to you, and the smart people will listen to this and go and follow up. Go look up Fred Lamb. Go look up Tai Lopez. Tai Lopez has videos with tens of millions of hits. Guys, he's got a video with, like, if I'm not mistaken, for sure at least 50 million, if not 500 million hits. Now, I know in the back of my mind he's doing some auto something. Google's very good that way, and it can usually figure these things out. But, if you're persevere enough, you can figure it out. It's like, at one point there was this race between Britney Spears and some other pop artist to see who could be the first video that was 100 million viewers on YouTube. And they were doing things like telling all their fans to, hey, keep coming back and hit repeat and hit refresh. And guys, Google is very smart. Google is very smart. I'm listening to the audiobook right now, How Google Works by Eric Schmidt. It's an incredible company, but it's powered by incredible people, guys. But all they did was this. Larry Page and Sergey Brin are obviously geniuses. The only thing they did that's really worthwhile in the whole scope of things is attract other intense and genius level people and create an environment where those people felt protected and allowed to do their own thing. Average smart creative at Google, his office is more or less like what you see around here. A complete freaking mess. Right? Complete freaking mess. So the reason I'm holding this book up like this is because obviously it's going to resonate. This is like the zeitgeist of the moment. But what I'm trying to say is, don't judge Trump. Rather, read his book. Rather, go and press flesh with him. Listen to one of his speeches. I can guarantee you, I'll guarantee you, 8 out of 10 people who bad Donald Trump, 8 out of 10, they are going to like him if they meet him in person. It's like our local mayor here in Toronto, Rob Ford. I love Rob Ford, and I hero worship him, and I've always respected and loved him, and I think the media and everyone hounded him and gave him a hard time, and I believe that's part of the parcel of life. As you progress and become a better person, it gets harder. And you get stronger, and it gets harder, and you get stronger, and it gets harder, and you get stronger. Guys, I'm sorry to have to report to you. I talked to, I work security on the side too. because you know the vagaries of the economy and ups and downs with consulting. It's feast or famine. You might have heard the term, which means that I'll land a client and then I make 5, 7, 8 grand paycheck. Guys, you're really not motivated to work if you're sitting on thousands of dollars of a bank account, and you're a guy like me who likes snowboarding and traveling. And you know, my wife and I fly off to Seattle to see some meditational guru, or she goes off to Colombia like literally every year, and she's gone once this year, and she's going to go again in July because she left her dog there. But in any case, here's a book I picked up, or I first picked up in Seattle. Actually, the book I picked up was Jim Collins's previous book, which was This Is Good to Great, and then oh yeah, Built to Last. Built to Last. So Jim Collins is the real deal, guys. Once again, it's about knowledge. Now, there's this prevalent thinking out there, which is correct, that you should look for people who have accomplished what they're trying to teach you to do. If I sit here and talk about building a great company, guys, I may not have my own great company. I've worked for plenty of them. I've worked for every kind of... I tell people at this point I've done every job there is. Really. And I like doing that. I've done manufacturing, retail, stocking shelves, not flipping pizza, but delivering pizza, working at McDonald's, telemarketing, door-to-door, all kinds of stuff. Residential, selling energy, selling alarms, telemarketing, hard clothes, soft clothes, you know, industries where you're literally shouting and swearing matches with your customers. These guys are engaged in. And let me just say a quick point. You know, I'll be honest with you. It's very interesting. I actually didn't intend to do this thing. What I'm doing right now is going obviously through books. And I guess I'll title this talk, you know, Good to Great and then Donald Trump or something, right? Donald Trump's a great guy, right? In the art of the deal, he says things like, for instance, you know, he came up along the way. Let's go back to Trump for a minute, eh? He came up along the way. Doing things like selling cars, renovating townhouses with his dad, hard work, and a perfectionist. He says that if I go past a car dealership, it makes so much sense. Just listen to this. It'll blow your mind and it will put things in perspective for you. He's not rich by luck, guys. It's hard freaking work and intelligence. He says if I go past a car dealership and the cars are dusty, he's like, that's a sign of a loser. Why do you think The Apprentice is a hit show? Why do you think practically everything he does, I can't think of anything he's done that really bombed. Guys, you'll be like, oh, well, he was bankrupt at one point. Of course. Of course. If you're an entrepreneur, like I'm bankrupt right now, you might say. I got like assets in terms of like equity here and there or something, or stupid stuff. I don't even think I would worry about that kind of stuff, guys. As long as I can eat food and read books, I'm basically all right, seriously, and do my stuff like you know, blog and all these kinds of things. Donald Trump is the man because of two things: hard work, and he listens to his mind in terms of, you know, let's say you're doing a job. It's so easy to do a shoddy job for someone else, right? If it's not your car and you're fixing it, you'll be like, whatever. That right there is lack of integrity, and that's going to hamper your success. Now it gets harder when you're your own boss, like myself. Like for years or whatever, I'd get up like in my quest to go from the corporate world, working for Oracle, Computer Associates, and you know, CompuWare, as well as like three, not one or two, but three Deloitte and Touche Fast 50 startup companies that all ended up getting acquired. Like one of them by Computer Associates, where I ended up, you know, staying on. I got promoted to you know, solution strategist role in Minneapolis, and I was in charge of 6 Midwest states: Minnesota, the Dakotas, and then Nebraska, Missouri, and Kansas. Guys, here's the kind of guy I am. I'm stationed in St. Louis, and we're doing our company rah rah. I mean, that's one of the things of sales organizations. Guys, I want to tell you, if you're a sales guy, you need to be on the phone with your customers. That's it. You need to be in front of your customers. Everything else you do is useless apart from communicating with your customers. Everything else is ancillary to that. Don't get caught up in the corporate culture, because I'll tell you something, and if there's any managers listening, please pay attention to what I'm about to say. Guys, your manager will screw up your deals. All right, you should read The Art of the Deal by Trump. If you're a sales guy and you're judging Trump, it means you haven't read The Art of the Deal. Why would you not read his books? He wrote a book with Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad fame. Robert Kiyosaki came up with the cash flow quadrant. You know, this classic quadrant, meaning like you've got four ways of making money. You draw like an X and Y axis. You've got employees, which is 80%, obviously, or like nowadays, to me, the Pareto principle is 90-10, and that 10 is split into 5 and 5. One is the real deal, the ideal, or whatever. What used to be the 20 is now 5%, and the other 5% is unknown, and 90% of people now have herd mentality. 90% of your customers are going to kick tires and cause you grief, and 5% of your customers, I believe personally, are going to bring you big profits. Now, does it mean that, now once again, integrity comes into play, guys? Does it mean you're only going to serve those big guys? The average business and even CEO, etc., is going to be like, yeah, these guys are paying my bills. Why would I spend? You know, it's perverted business thinking. People say, well, business is different from real life. Business is different from real life because with business, you know, there's no scope for a quote unquote juvenile ethics or a juvenile morality dilemma. You know, if you go into that gray area, you end up being like someone like ExxonMobil, guys. Or, I'm not going to say British Petroleum. They were in charge of this Gulf spill that's still causing damage to the environment and has destroyed thousands of lives, not to mention ecosystem. Irreversible damage. We're talking about millions of barrels a day of oil just spewing out into the Gulf Coast. Anyway, British Petroleum are an exemplary company. You may or may not know that their brand right now, their slogan is Beyond Petroleum. Guys, they're leading the way. They're looking at, obviously, what are these things? Those, not cash crops, but they're crops that you farm and you can produce energy from them too. Like hemp, for example, is a great example. Hemp is it really is a wonder drug. Wonder plant, sorry. Did I give myself away? I used to smoke lots of weed. I've tried to tone it down because, I mean, I'm really at a point where it's just become, for me, like smoking weed has become a distraction. But in any case, hemp clothes last so long. Hemp, an acre of hemp or whatever produces more energy than like XYZ number of barrels of oil, etc. I don't know the numbers, but hemp is amazing, guys. You've got solar power, you've got nuclear power, which can definitely be safe. And by the way, we haven't even scratched the surface of the real source of energy, which may potentially come into play in the future. There's two kinds of nuclear power, fusion and fission. One of those is the one that takes place in the center of the sun. I'm not sure I don't know if it's fission or fusion, but we have accomplished, let's say, fusion, which is the atom bomb, which everyone thinks is a big deal. Guys, atom bomb is nothing. If you take a fission reaction, like a tablespoon of nuclear material, uranium or some nuclear isotope, radioactive isotope, guys, if you ignite a fission reaction, it will explode practically your whole solar system. It's so intense. I mean, I don't know, but it's orders of magnitude more than fission. So we got a long way to go, perhaps, as a race, right? God is great. God is great. What am I going to say? God is great. Now, what we're trying to do in business essentially is create the ultimate customer experience. And that's what this guy's about. Everything that he does is highest quality. And he says things like, you know what, I have to buy from China now because they give us the best stuff at the lowest price and I am a businessman. Right? So he might sound racist and all this kind of stuff, but the funny thing is he knows more Mexicans and employs more Mexicans than you will ever. And so to call him racist is so stupid. If he hated Mexicans, he wouldn't do that. He actually, the thing is, he loves America, guys. I would say he's a nationalist. That's his only fault. That's really Donald Trump's only fault, is he's a nationalist. I would say he should be a humanist. I would say Hillary Clinton is going to win. And I would say that you should vote for Bernie Sanders, and you're probably not going to listen because he's an anti-capitalist. He's actually a communist. Like one of my heroes in life, I've got his biography right there. You might see that red book. I read that constantly and listen to the audiobook and reread it and listen to the audiobook. It's like 600 pages long. John Anderson, John Lee Anderson. So this is the authoritative biography of Che Guevara. John Lee Anderson, who wrote it, essentially had unfettered access to basically anywhere he wanted to go from his from his widow's Che's widow. She gave him all the stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that's unpublished, and his widow, Che Guevara's widow, did not want to make public because Che was a writer, guys. Che was a philosopher. Che was an intense guy. I mean, I like to think I'm like Che. I mean, I really hero worship him. I hero worship Donald Trump too, and I think you should too. If you're in business and you don't hero worship Donald Trump, what kind of rubbish is that? Anyway, let's put this aside. So, you know what? He did a lot of work, right? When he's fixing and renovating stuff, he makes sure it's perfect. He's a perfectionist, just like my beautiful wife. Good to great and built to last. So, same kind of concept. Now, you might say, Jim Collins, I forget which university he's at. It doesn't really matter. He's at a university in the States, tenured professor, etc., etc. Now, he's got a research team of about 20 people, guys. And they spend 5 years of hardcore university master's and PhD level research with algorithms and all kinds of stuff. Guys, it's not some dude who's just read a lot of books and he writes some other books, right? That's the kind of book you should be wary of that's just filled with platitudes. This is some hardcore stuff. And Buddy here talks to, like I do, industry people on a constant basis. The reason he wrote this book is because it might have been the guy from HP or somebody from one of these Silicon Valley companies. They're having dinner once, and the guy basically told him. Jim was like, "What do you think of Built to Last?" And he's like, "This is great stuff." Built to Last is essentially a compendium, a case study, as it were, of companies that are awesome brands, like the GMs and Fords and Western Unions of the world and so forth, Xerox's, IBM's. And the guy said, he was just a straight shooting off the cuff kind of guy, like my ex-boss Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is one of the great geniuses and underappreciated people of this world. He's probably in terms of money versus personality, he's probably the richest guy with the richest personality. He will say what he likes when he likes. He doesn't swear, but he's just incredible. Larry Ellison owns jets, private jets, and he flies them himself. That's one of his hobbies, guys. Guys, Larry Ellison is a sailing fanatic. Now, it's not that he sails himself, but he became obsessed with winning the America's Cup yacht race. I worked for Oracle, and for one of our sales shindigs here in Toronto, Oracle Canada took all of us salespeople, sales and marketing people. Basically, it took us to, like right off the downtown Toronto. There's some islands essentially. It's a beautiful city, guys. I really appreciate it if you'd come out here and pay it a visit and tell people about how amazing Toronto is. The only thing Toronto doesn't have is mountains. That's it. It has everything else on this planet you can find there. Good and bad. But way less of the bad. Yeah, we have occasional murders and whatnot. It's getting worse. Yeah, I'm in the security field, so I'm aware of these things, and I, watch reports and all this kind of stuff. But, guys, a given month in Manhattan, just Manhattan, is like a whole year of crime in Toronto. Let me just put it in perspective. You may or may not know, there's like 10 or 12, if not 40, 50, 60,000 cops in New York. Like, there might be 10,000 active cops and, stuff like that. It's like in the tens of thousands, essentially. It's basically a little army that Bloomberg has to basically play around with in terms of enforcing his mandate, essentially. Bloomberg, another great genius. How are you going to criticize? Like, listen, if you're politically Republican versus Democrat versus Green versus Independent, etc., whatever, that's one thing. But you shouldn't personally attack someone who's so successful. Unfortunately, it's a sign of weakness. It shows that you're really, you haven't thought things out. Like, let's say you, in your world, you're trying to succeed, and yet you're putting down people who are successful. It doesn't make any sense. You need to humble yourself and swallow your pride, and, you know, put an end to the machinations of your ego, and you have to start researching these people and what they're doing. That's the whole point. Jim Collins has a research team, and the guy at the table in this dinner in Silicon Valley said to him, Jim, this is great. He was an off-the-cuff guy like Larry Ellison, right? And he said, well, listen, you haven't told us how we can make our companies great companies. That's the thing. So Jim goes away. Jim's like, it was like a brain buster. He's like sitting on a mountain somewhere, like, well, not a mountain. It's like he's got like hills around where he lives, and he goes running, and he's sitting there meditating, and he's like, it becomes clear to him that essentially the guy's right. I mean, to say that you have a book, Built to Last, which is the previous book, Built to Last, down there, best-selling Built to Last, right? Jim Collins. I hope you're familiar with Jim Collins. If you're in business and you haven't heard of Jim Collins, unfortunately, you know, that's, I guess, becomes my job to tell you, but it seems very absurd to me. Like, for instance, someone will be in technology and they don't know about Jeffrey Moore and Crossing the Chasm. Or you're a marketing guy, you don't know about Seth Godin and the concept of purple cow. Purple cow simply means it's remarkable. And remarkable simply means it's the key to the whole thing. That it's something that someone, once they experience, are going to tell someone else. If you're driving, like, listen, Seth Godin's probably said this 1,000 times to 1,000 different audiences, notwithstanding his best-selling book. I saw that book on the desk of my one of my favorite. He's a president of a company now, Bright Squid, Rohit Joshi. Props to him. I'll see if I can send him a link to this video. But Purple Cow, and I saw the book Purple Cow, and I thought that's what a strange name for a book. And so I looked it up. He says if you're driving along through the prairies and you see cows, cows are cows. Like if you have a farmer and he wants to draw attention to his farm or dairy produce or something, and he starts let's say he puts bells and ribbons and whatnot on his on his um on his cows. He's trying to essentially communicate the position, right? That my cows are the best. Okay? That's one thing. But if you got a guy like graffiti artist Banksy who paints animals, and he makes sure they don't suffer, guys. If anyone's into art and graffiti art or hears about Banksy, because he's big beans now. He's like multi-million level kind of guy, and once again started on the streets of Birmingham or whatever, Manchester, Liverpool, and hanging off bridges, chased by cops, getting put in jail, and now he's a world famous celebrity. You should really watch this movie, Exit Through the Gift Shop. It's like Exit Through the Gift Shop. If you watch that Banksy movie, you should. If you're a sales director, I urge you to take your guys out one time on a retreat and watch Exit Through the Gift Shop. It fires on so many levels that you guys will come away fired up, and they won't even know what's going on. It's like Napoleon Hill's, Think and Grow Rich. It's written in such a way that it acts on you on so many levels that you don't even realize it's reprogramming your brain. Information becomes data, which it means the information is organized into data. And then that data, what we try and do is we apply analytics and we analyze it and so forth. And over the course of experience, that information becomes bona fide knowledge, which is what this is. This book is knowledge. But knowledge is not what we're after. We're after results. So there's a couple more steps. You got to apply the knowledge to the best, 100% best of your ability. It's like my ex-sales manager at Computer Associates. We closed a $2 million deal with SuperValu, guys. I spent 6 months on a plane between Minneapolis and Idaho. I was going to tell you earlier, I was in St. Louis, and I got up one day at the crack of dawn and drove like 6 hours for a meeting with Payless Shoes in Kansas, just because the opportunity presented itself. And I wasn't going to let it slip. You got to be hungry, guys. And unfortunately, I can't answer the question of how you get hungry. I think the answer would be that you just keep reading. Keep reading. I mean, sales and marketing for you. I'm going to digress here briefly. I don't like promoting myself that much. I mean, I throw a couple of tidbits out here from time to time. I'll say this to you guys. If anyone watching this who's interested in cold calling or anything to do with sales, marketing, branding, if you knew what I was capable of, you'd be sending people out here on a plane, right? To bring me over and help you out. I will take your brand from wherever it is as long as it makes sense to me. And I'll take it as far as it can go, which is the limit. There's no limit. I mean, is what I'm trying to say. It's like Brad Cooper, Limitless. It really is. You get two guys, Bill Packard and Dave Hewitt, two normal guys, technical guy and a business guy, and now you've got Hewlett Packard, HP, $100 billion plus company, and like to say they do printers is so banal. Oh, they just do printers and No, there's a lot going on at HP that you can't even imagine. Like, it's really all about services nowadays in IT. Software and services, essentially. I mean, the hardware game is essentially it's a losing business. IBM, for instance, Big Blue, it's like they like to say that in IT, IBM is not a company you compete against. IBM is the environment in which you compete, and you'll be like, IBM. That's what you'll say, right? You'll say IBM. Well, they don't have an operating system. They don't have desktop computers anymore. They're still huge, right? Do you think it's a coincidence that they're that big? Or do you think it's luck? Or what do you think? Why do you think they're that big? They're that big for a reason. There are cogent reasons IBM is huge, notwithstanding the fact they don't have an operating system. They have lots of software, by the way. That's a different thing. I mean, they basically are mid-level, kind of like the hardware is servers, essentially. They do a lot of servers. I don't know if they do mainframes. Like Computer Associates, where I worked, half of their revenue stream, their cash cow, as it were, is mainframe software. That's what the company started with. And mainframes are not dead. It's another misconception. Mainframes are a thing of the past. In fact, mainframes are coming back in a big way, and IBM's riding that wave, and I wish them all the best. And the whole Smart Planet thing. But here's the key. IBM Global Services. When I was at Computer Associates and IBM came up, the only time I was happy to hear IBM is when they were our customer too. Like I worked with them for at Calgary Regional Health in Calgary, obviously, or Calgary Regional Health Authority, something like that, CRHA. And guys, you can't compete against IBM, and I'll tell you why. Let's say you got a CN Rail, or you got Union Pacific, right out in Omaha, Warren Buffett's stomping grounds. And by the way, what a humble guy. Humble house, humble neighborhood, beat up old station wagon. A real guy. He's not a flamboyant character like Ellison. Ellison is a flamboyant character, but at the same time, Ellison, that's just his nature. He doesn't do these things to show off. If he has an island, or he built $1 billion yacht with IBM, essentially, like at this sales retreat in Toronto, they showed us, like, they had guys from the sales team come and tell us what was going on there or something like that. I mean, I just remember a presentation. I forget who actually gave it. Incredible stuff. They used material on this thing. So IBM and Oracle built $1 billion yacht. Now, an icebreaker, like they're having these discussions nowadays over the Arctic. Arctic's going to be huge in the future, guys. There's going to be transportation, all kinds of stuff. There's going to be potentially wars that are going to be fought over the Arctic. There's so many unclaimed resources up there. God is great, right? God is great. What can I say? Russia has 44 icebreakers. They cost $8 to $10 billion each, and they take about 8 to 10 years to make each. The States has like 4, and Canada has like 8, something like this, or 6. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is $1 billion yacht is basically going up into that level. Icebreaker, by the way, these things are like, most people don't even know about icebreakers. I really don't know about them. This is just something I saw in RT. You know, and I want to say, I mentioned RT. I got to say, I think it's a real shame that the ex-Russian federal minister or press secretary or whoever he was, I don't care if you think he's a communist. The guy gets beaten to death in a hotel in Washington D.C. and nobody seems to care about it. He's the guy who actually was the brainchild for RT. And RT, if there's anyone out here that's listening that has any brains, you're going to get RT and you're going to start watching it, and you're going to understand very quickly how the traditional mainstream media is just like it's essentially once again 90-10, or the Pareto principle. Mainstream media, 80% of it is all just like the mass mind. Mass mind meaning, you know, people don't like rich people and they judge them. You know, like basically, like I like to say something like this, and I will get to this book eventually, guys. You know, I've got a habit of talking a lot. Eh, I'm a sales guy after all. Actually, that's a stupid thing to say because sales guys are good listeners. The only reason I know what I know is because I listen and I take notes. By the way, like literally, if you anybody anywhere, like as a security guard working on a construction site, if I meet someone really intense, and you meet all kinds of interesting people everywhere, and if the guy starts talking about something that is very interesting to me, I'll say, hold on a second, I'll pull out my notebook and I'll start making notes anywhere. Guys, if I don't have a piece of paper and a pen, I'll start making notes on my hand with my finger. I'll write A, B, and I'll like that. Why? There's a saying of Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him and his family. Write down what you know in order to remember it. So now, then, if you ask me how come you know this much, that's the only answer I can give you. I've read a lot, I'm a good student, and all this kind of stuff, and I love learning. You know, it's like Imam Ali, peace be upon him, said, two greedy people will never be satisfied, the seeker of the world and the seeker of knowledge. Alright, so Oracle is Oracle. I did want to say one thing, just to give you an idea of how awesome Larry Ellison is, and how stale and politicized the environment at other companies is. I just propped HP. I don't want to put HP down, okay? But HP ex CEO, I forget his name, Mark Hurd, I believe. He's now one of Larry Ellison's co-presidents. Essentially, Larry Ellison is the CEO of the longest standing CEO in Silicon Valley, by the way. No small feat. No small feat. To survive 35 years in the cradle and the crucible of innovation, the word innovation, the world only knows about the concept of innovation because of these guys like Steve Jobs and the Wozniaks and all these guys I've been talking about. You know, Ellison was hitting and pitching back in the days, starting out with Oracle, with these guys like Steve Jobs in the same time frame, 1975 or circa 1975. You've got Apple, you've got not IBM. IBM's obviously a different game. Computer Associates, where I worked, and Microsoft, right? You've got Oracle. His first contract was with the military. They called the software Oracle 2.0 because, you know, it's just creative stuff. Because they figured, well, if it's the first version of the software, people are going to think it's buggy. Of course, every version's buggy because there's no such thing as perfect, right? Anyway, I mean, only God's perfect. Let's just put it that way, eh? So Ellison publicly reprimands and goes after people like Microsoft and whatnot. It's not that he goes after them, he's just speaking his thoughts. Guys, I'll say something that a lot of people are going to find very offensive. Microsoft is not a software company. Microsoft has software engineers, it's got PhD level scientists like the rest of them, but Microsoft's business plan is not at all about innovation. The only place that Microsoft innovates and has a good business, as far as I'm concerned, is the Xbox business, right? Apart from that, all they do, and I'm just going to quote Ellison on this. I should have a talk just about Larry Ellison. And by the way, I've got, you know, various blogs and videos and whatnot that are out there that I talk about such things sometimes. But the only thing that Microsoft does, according to you know, if you go to YouTube and you plug in Larry Ellison, Microsoft, you'll come up with this clip where a young Ellison, hungry, back in the 80s, like just about 90 or 92, Oracle went through like a, what is it, kind of like waking up, right? They had some serious financial difficulties or a crisis or some kind of accounting scandal. And basically, Ellison puts it like this: we were going from a multi-hundred-million-dollar company to a multi-billion-dollar company. They had the SEC after them. There was accounting irregularities, like there always are. Who's going to have run a perfect accounting with billions of dollars of transactions flowing around? And it's like so, like with software, it's so, in a sense, it's kind of like, it's ambiguous, right? Like if I sell you a software license, can I record that in the books and therefore report it to Wall Street? Or is it when the customer's installed it? Or is it when they've realized the value? I mean, it really should be when the only thing that matters is when the customer has gotten their ROI. And unfortunately, I got to say this too. Okay, so Larry Ellison's standing in a suit outside a courtroom, litigation with Microsoft, and he's like, I don't see Bill Gates here, whatever, right? And I'm not downing Bill Gates, guys. I lived in Seattle. My phone number is still a Seattle number, right? My Google Voice numbers. Seattle, once again, a great place in terms of like entrepreneurship. You got like Jeff Bezos, Amazon. You've got Howard Schultz with Starbucks. You got Bill Gates, and Ballmer, and then co-founder of Microsoft. I don't know, I forget his name, but and he's a guy behind the scenes, unsung hero, like Larry Ellison, like the co-founder of Apple, Wozniak. Nobody knows about him. Apple is basically Wozniak, the inception at least. Steve Jobs, amazing guy, man. I got not one but two copies. That white book right there is Steve Jobs' biography. And I reread that too. I got two copies of it. I wish I could get the audio version. It's an amazing book. And Steve Jobs was crazy, guys. He was a crazy dude. He was insane. He used to show up at meetings like barefoot and slack customers off. They took him to Japan. He didn't even wear a suit. They're so formal out there. And he's just swearing. He basically, like Trump, just speaks his mind and does whatever he feels is the best thing to do. And if he can't get it done, he would start crying in board meetings and shouting at his directors. And he was literally impossible to work with. He's what they call a diva. Diva means like very, very genius level person. But it's like in the movies, it's like you got this person, or even in sports, you got these people who are so intense that they are just impossible to deal with. Then it's your choice. If you want the benefit of their value that they provide in terms of their knowledge and wisdom, experience, and the results that they deliver, then you're going to have to put up with their crap, if that's what you think it is. And one day you might realize that they're thinking a certain way, and they're simply trying to align your thinking with the way you should be thinking. Because you got a lot of hiccups in your thinking, right? You like to pretend that you're running a nice company and our departments are fine and everything's polished, because you got to report that to different people, and you got to report it to your board, and you got to report that eventually to Wall Street, basically, and the government, and all these people who are holding you accountable. And what you forget is you're doing it inside out. You should just focus on excellence, period. And the rest of it will take care of itself. I think that's where Larry Page and Sergey Brin fell off the wagon. They've been through so much litigation. Google is so big and it works on so many levels, and they're so innovative. If there's one company that are the ultimate innovators, it's for sure Google. I personally don't like them because, for example, the truth is the truth. I don't mind saying it, right? The Quran says, "La yaktumul haqqa wa antum ta'lamun." Don't hide the truth while you know it. And I go out of my way to let people know that this is the case, even if it's things that reflect bad against me and Islam or my company or whatever. Okay, so Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, who gets paid like in the hundreds of millions of dollars, basically, all included in terms of his severance package. I mean, he's now basically the chairman of the board for the parent company or something. He's worth every penny, obviously. That's not a point of contention, right? It's like the guy at Walmart is making like 30 million bucks, the CEO. Hey, it's a $300 or $400 billion company. Are you stupid? It's a simple equation. If the guy can take a company, it's like Mark Hurd. Okay, going back to Larry Ellison. Mark Hurd took HP from like 60 billion to like $120 billion company by himself. They fired him over allegations of sexual impropriety with some girl that he had actually gotten a job for. Mark Hurd. And basically Larry Ellison, when it comes up, he's like me. He gets fired up. He's like, they're idiots. First of all, for like a month, he's like, they're idiots. They're such idiots. They're such idiots. That's all he was saying to anyone who'd listen. I can't believe, how can you fire someone who doubled the size of a $60 billion company? Over what? Human ego. Politics. He snatched the dude up. Mark Hurd is happy as happy camper over at Oracle. He reminds me so much of my ex-boss at Computer Associates. Like, he's a VP of technical sales there. A young guy, my age, might have 70 direct reports, and he's from Nepal. And he's been at CA his whole career. He's an amazing guy. He's one of these guys, like, so far-sighted. He's got so much wisdom in the world of corporate affairs. Pratish Upadhyay, I'll put his name out there. Hey, boss, I hope we're still going to go up to the top of Mount Everest one day. You know, that 2-week window where you can climb go base camp 1, 2, 3, and then ascend to the actual summit. There's only a 2-week window, guys, where you can actually do that in the year, in May. And there's thousands of people that have been lost and injured and unaccounted for since the beginning of time. Hello, it wasn't just this Englishman, I forget his name, who scaled Mount Everest. I mean, people have always been trying to overcome challenges because that's human nature. And you got to suck it up like the Buddha. You can't sit around whining and making excuses. Listen, if you have inflammation of the excusitis gland and you come up with reasons, I saw this great ad, right? I'm an advertising man too, obviously. Like, there's a huge segment on my website about advertising. If you actually take the time to read some of those articles, I should probably do videos on advertising. And by the way, I'll just chuck this book aside. I just wanted to, I guess let's just take a quick peek at some of the companies in here. But, it's like university level stuff. Look at this stuff right here. They've got like charts and statistics and bell curves and stuff. And it's not a technical read. It's not full of pictures, by the way. It's not full of, he's too smart to write a book of statistics, and it wouldn't become a bestseller anyway. It's like the Hawkins, Stephen Hawkins, I think, Brief History of Time, the eminent scientist, right? His publisher said to him, or his agent, for every equation you put in a Brief History of Time, it's going to cut the readership in half. What a sage and prescient statement. Pratish at CA, he knows before sending an email exactly what the repercussions are going to be. Who among all the customers and employees and partners is going to be reading it and talking to who and saying what, where, when, why, and what the result's going to be, and he's already prepared for it before it happens. That's how you win in business. It's not called going out there and shaking the trees and pounding the pavement. No, it's called thinking. It's all about strategy. If you do not, I'll make a statement right now that I hope somebody writes down and repeats. He who has the best strategy wins, period. It's like Seth Godin says, if your idea spreads, you win. He coined this meme called idea virus, okay? I mean, in fact, the concept of meme itself is idea virus. Like, I have a pet peeve against Richard Dawkins, the eminent atheist. I've actually written a rebuttal to his book, The God Delusion. I've written the No God Delusion. I've got a personal blog. By now you probably know and maybe think I'm slightly crazy if you've seen some of my other YouTube videos and, poems and art and just rants and raves and stuff like that. But listen, this is who I am. I'm not here to apologize, and I hope you are here for one and one thing only, which is yourself. And I'm here to help you. I want you to succeed, because when your customer succeeds, guys, you succeed. But best strategy wins. And the meme is an idea which is contagious, like a purple cow. I guarantee you, and just think about it, if you saw purple cow, there's no way you could keep that to yourself. It's like the Greek myth where there's this guy and he has this secret and he knows if he tells someone, he'll get killed. So he digs holes in the side of the river and speaks the stuff into there. And then strangely, the reeds start going out of there, and then in the wind they're swaying, and then the breeze and the reeds, and then what his secret starts spilling out in the wind, something like that. Very peculiar stuff. But guys, remember this: sales is smiles. They say get on the phone and go like this. You know what? It's actually not a bad move. This guy came over to Oracle. I'll prop him, John Costigan. If anyone's looking for a professional cold caller and you don't like my style and you want a polished guy because you want to impress your boss or whatever, then go to John Costigan's website. All right, um, you know, the ex-CEO of Slazenger is now his right-hand man, kind of thing. Buddy is the real deal. He'll come into your you can't even understand. The guy's a sales guy. He'll sit at he makes sure he gets it set up so he's got a live phone on his desk. And he'll tell people, okay, it's one of the first things he does when he goes in. He's like, write down numbers, and tomorrow or later in the week, I want each one of you to have 2 to 3 numbers of people that you've been having difficulty getting in touch with. And then he leaves voicemails, and 60 to 80% of them return the calls. You'll be like, it's unheard of, it's impossible. It's John Costigan. Go check it out. So he gave us these little packs. He's a cool guy. I mean, he makes $1 million a year. He told us that, and it's impressive. Okay, he used to be a sales guy. Now he makes $1 million a year. He's living his dream. He's working for companies like Oracle. Okay, Fortune 500 clients. Guys, he gave us all, and I have it somewhere, a little mirror, and it's got his little logo on there, like the John Costigan little brand, and the mirror basically, it says on the bottom, what you see is what they hear. Like you're looking at the mirror talking. It's an amazing thing, right? So I tell people that looking at a mirror is ultimate meditation. I look at myself all the time making these movies, right? That's my aspect of it. I get to see, because when you're looking at yourself, like your features reveal a lot, guys. And you see, there's a philosophy. There's kind of different philosophy between, you know, like there's two. Okay, so there's this philosophy that, if, do you smile when you're happy, or if you smile, do you become happy, right? So if I'm feeling happy, I'll smile. But if I smile, does that make me feel happy? I'll say to you that my humble opinion is that it depends. There are people who can force themselves to be happy that way. For me, that doesn't work. But I will say this, as a sales guy, I'll say show them your teeth. You might be feeling depressed or some horrible things happening in your life, and you still got to go to work. I know it, guys. I've been there. I've felt that horrible knowing feeling of, my God, I'm nowhere near my quota. I haven't even got anything on the board yet. The month's almost over. Other guys are already 80 to 60% of their quota, and I'm the new guy, or I'm the old guy, and I got my reputation. I've been there. You got to go through that stuff if you want to be a sales master, guys. And if you're in sales and you don't want to be a sales master, then get the hell out of there and find another job. If you don't, if you're working with me, I'm very demanding. I'll work for free until I bring you business. But if you start messing around, I'll probably lose my temper and start dropping F-bombs. I'll be honest with you. I'll tell people, I just told some lady the other day, it took 2 or 3 voicemails we exchanged, and I said, this is ridiculous. If you're in business and I call you twice, like another great sales mentor of mine, Nico Pambukas, hey buddy, like company in Onvia in Seattle, Onvia, it means on the way. Irv Alpert is the co-founder there, and you should look him up and get in touch if you're into government contracts. If your business is essentially, you want to take part in a government project for roads or dams or infrastructure. Like I was there right at, God is great, right? I was there right at the time when they were doing the 2008, 2009 fiscal restructuring economic stimulus package. There was so much government money getting put into infrastructure and roads and stuff, and there were all these projects, and Onvia is the company, period. There's no one even that comes close. There's some people out there that say they have this. No, guys. Onvia is a software company. We got software engineers. We got a guy there, Stuart Olmstead. I mean, essentially, he knew more about the government, and he was an engineer or a sales trainer kind of guy and a technical kind of guy. He was a smart creative, essentially, and he had different roles within the company. I mean, he was very close to Irv, and they did their thing, right? Um, but he knew the process of
government RFPs and bids and how to win that business better than, I would say, 100%. Definitely 90% of salespeople and business people involved in that game. And yet he didn't actually take part in that himself. He wasn't a sales guy. He was a sales trainer. Guys, the reason is because he talked to people, he engaged people. And I remember in a class, like, he used me as an example in front of his class as of a good call. And I was kind of like taken aback because I didn't think it was that great at all. But he's a great guy. I learned so much from him. I'll just say one thing that Stuart Olmsted told me that to this day I repeat to my customers. Guys, your customer will buy from you for one or two reasons. It's not a generality. It means on a personal or a business level, there's always two areas where people buy. For personal, you have one or two personal reasons and one or two business reasons. Now, what those are is your job to find out. You can't assume, like, I'm a fitness guy and I'll be like, oh my God, this thing is so great and you can stretch with it and you roll it and it's like yoga. You know what this is, right? You basically hold on to it and you put it on the floor and you do like a downward dog in yoga. And it's amazing. This one little thing can make you super fit by itself. It's so intense. However, if I am trying to sell these, I can't expect people to understand any of that unless I get one in their hands and get them down on the floor. And if I do that, it's sold. Trust me on that. Like, I used to work for this place called DS Max, and we'd sell stuff like this, like little stuff. Like, we'd have throwaways from Disney and all these labels, all these brands. And my boss literally, like umbrellas or crazy alarm clocks or whatever, he said to me, you take the thing and you throw it at someone. You throw it into their hands. Like, we would be hawking bags and walking around the street, and people make millions of dollars with the business model because you get good and then you train your own team and you get comped and it keeps going and going. And when I left there, the guy was begging me. And I remember what he said, and I feel so sad, buddy. If you ever watch this, I'm sorry. I just had to move on, man. I got an offer to go into software sales, guy. How the hell am I going to say no when I got a computer science degree, right? Minor in computer science, albeit, or whatever, right? Microsoft certified systems engineer, A plus technician, all this kind of stuff. Business administration degree with computer science, and I've done like object-oriented software technology at the University of Calgary. Hello. It's a defunct course. It was too expensive to run, man. They had like sliding glass doors, like University of Calgary campus, and then they have this complex or building right next to it with real businesses in it. So I would essentially be going to work every day, full time, hardcore, multi-tiered, object-oriented programming, Java, Visual Basic, all the stuff that was hot at the time. This was back in 2005. I finished, and it's the most intense and abstract thing there is, computer programming. Like, it's essentially just maths, but it's so out there. It's like when you're lost in the depths of a software program that you're trying to debug and compile and get to run. Guys, as a sales guy, you've got your kind of nightmare, but don't look down on your engineers. Like, my boss at Control F1, my sales manager at Control F1, a small software company. So I mentioned Rohit Joshi, who was the